3 weeks after the battle, Taewon stood at the memorial site in the Arctic. 23 names carved in stone, one for each pilot who had died defending Earth. The eternal witness sat behind him, no longer a secret. The world knew about the Vorath now. The world knew what they had sacrificed. Hana joined him, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. The UN just approved full production of the new fleet. 50 ships in the first wave, all based on Vorath designs with human improvements. Will it be enough? Taewon asked. I don't know. We don't know what the Krell High Council will decide. They might send envoys. They might send a fleet. We won't know until they arrive. Around the world, humanity prepared for both possibilities. Factories worked day and night. Young Six Team had cracked more Vorath technology, developing faster engines, stronger shields, better weapons. The human Vorath hybrid ships were becoming formidable, but it wasn't just about weapons. Dong Hyun had detected something remarkable: transmissions from across the galaxy, encrypted messages being sent between star systems. The Krell data on humanity had spread. Other species were learning that someone had faced the Krell and survived. Some transmissions sounded curious. Others sounded fearful. A few sounded hopeful. In her office at UN headquarters, General Nam reviewed intelligence reports. We're getting signals from at least 7 different species. Some want to talk. Some want to warn us. One civilization sent us their entire cultural database, like they're preserving their history in case the Krell destroy them. Min Hoseo sat across from her. What do? We do what humans do best. We adapt, we reach out, we build alliances. On the moon, Kyungmi Baek stood in the pilot's ready room. New recruits surrounded her, young men and women from every nation on Earth. They looked at her with respect and fear. She was one of the survivors, one of the 24 pilots who had lived through the battle. You've all seen the simulation recordings, she said. You know what we're up against. The Krell are stronger than us, faster than us. They have better technology and thousands of years of combat experience. But we beat them once. You want to know how? The recruits leaned forward. We fought as one, not as individuals, not as separate squadrons, as one pack with one purpose. The Krell don't understand that. They're alpha predators who hunt alone or in small groups. They've never faced a species that fights the way we do. She pulled up tactical displays. Every one of you is here because you're the best pilot your country has. But out there, you're not Korean or American or Brazilian. You're human. You trust your wingmate with your life, and they trust you with theirs. That's how we win. Training continued. Every day, the pilots got better. Every day, they learned to think as one unit, to anticipate each other's moves, to coordinate attacks with split-second precision. Yuna Choi, recovered from her ejection, joined the new training program. She wasn't cleared to fly yet, but she helped train others. Her experience in that terrible moment when her fighter was hit, when she had to eject and watch the battle continue without her, gave her insights that saved lives. In Antarctica, Bora's team had fully excavated the Silent Observer. The second Vorath ship provided even more data, maps of the galaxy, lists of species the Vorath had studied, and most importantly, coordinates. 3 other civilizations, Bora explained to the Science Council. 3 species the Vorath were studying when the Krell killed them. These species might still be hiding, might still be primitive, might not know the danger they're in. You want to contact them, Taewon said. I think we should try. If we're going to face the Krell again, we need allies, and these species deserve to know the truth, the way the Vorath tried to tell us. General Nam made the decision. We build a ship, a fast ship with a small crew, a first contact vessel. Find these species, warn them, help them if we can. The ship was called Eternal Witness 2, named after the Vorath vessel that had saved humanity. It was beautiful, a blend of human engineering and Vorath technology. Sleek and fast, designed for exploration and diplomacy, but armed enough to defend itself. Kyungmi was chosen to command it. At 28 years old, she would lead humanity's first interstellar mission. The crew was small. 12 people total. Hana as chief science officer, Jiho as engineer, Hyun-woo as communications specialist, 9 others, each one an expert in their field. On the day of departure, Taewon stood at the launch site. The ship sat on the pad, ready for its journey into the unknown. You're sure about this?
He asked Kyungmi. She smiled.
Someone has to do it. Might as well be me. The Krell High Council hasn't made their decision yet. They might decide to destroy us while you're gone. Then you'll have to hold them off until I get back with reinforcements." They both knew it was gallows humor, but they laughed anyway. It was very human. The Eternal Witness 2 launched at dawn. It climbed through Earth's atmosphere, through the orbital traffic, past the moon with its hidden military bases, and out into deep space. At the edge of the solar system, it activated its FTL drive, technology that humanity had spent 18 months developing from Vorath blueprints. The ship vanished, jumping to faster-than-light speeds, beginning its journey to find other species that needed warning, other civilizations that needed hope. Back on Earth, life continued. Children went to school. People fell in love. Cities grew, but everyone knew the truth now. They weren't alone in the universe, and the universe was dangerous. In a hidden chamber deep beneath Sol, young Sik worked on his greatest project yet. Using data from both Vorath ships and analyzing the Krell vessel's brief time in the solar system, he was developing something new. Something the Vorath had never created, something the Krell had never seen. A weapon that didn't destroy, a weapon that communicated, a device that could translate any language instantly, that could find common ground between completely alien minds. If humanity was going to survive in the galaxy, they would need to talk, to negotiate, to build bridges. Weapons would keep them alive, but diplomacy might let them live. General Nam stood in the UN Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. The Krell will make their decision soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a year, but they will come, either as allies or enemies. When they do, they'll find us ready, not just with weapons, but with purpose. The Vorath died to protect us. 23 pilots died to save us. We honor them by surviving, by becoming worthy of their sacrifice. The Assembly voted unanimously to continue the defense initiative, to build more ships, to train more pilots, to reach out to other species, to prepare for whatever came next. Far across the galaxy, in a chamber vast enough to hold thousands, the Krell High Council debated. Holographic displays showed the battle data, human fighters coordinating in impossible patterns, pack tactics that shouldn't work but did, a species that fought like no other in recorded history. An elder Krell, ancient and wise, studied the data carefully. In 10,000 cycles, no species has done this. They should not exist. They are dangerous. They are remarkable. Another Krell, younger and more aggressive, responded. They are a threat. They must be eliminated. A third Krell, a diplomat, offered a different view. They offered respect. They could have destroyed our scout vessel but chose not to. Perhaps the galaxy needs species like this. Perhaps we have enforced order for so long that we have forgotten what strength looks like. The debate continued for days. Meanwhile, humanity prepared. They trained. They built. They reached out to the stars. In the Arctic memorial, fresh snow covered the ground. The 23 names remained visible, carved deep into stone. Above them, new words had been added. They died so humanity could live. We live so their sacrifice matters. Taewon visited often. So did Hana's family and young Sik and countless others. People from around the world came to see where it all began, where humans first learned they weren't alone, where the Vorath had died 12,000 years ago to protect a species they barely knew. The future was uncertain. The Krell might come in peace or war. Other species might become allies or enemies. Humanity might thrive among the stars or face extinction. But one thing was certain. Humanity would face it together, as one pack, the way they always had. They were predators who had learned to think, builders who remembered how to hunt, and dreamers who refused to surrender. The galaxy had noticed them, and the galaxy would never forget them. 8 months had passed since the world learned about the Krell. 8 months of chaos, fear, and desperate preparation. The United Nations had created a new organization, the United Earth Defense Initiative. General Sujin Nam led it with an iron will and a brilliant strategic mind. Taewon barely recognized the world anymore. Every major nation had redirected its military budget to space defense. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. Scientists who studied climate change now studied alien technology. The entire planet had united for the first time in human history, bound together by the promise of extinction. He stood in a laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps, watching Dr. Young Sik Hong work on a quantum computer the size of a room. Young Sik was young, barely 40, but his understanding of physics made him invaluable. He had been studying the Vorath ship's database for months, pulling out every scrap of technological knowledge. "Tell me something good," Taewon said. Young Sik looked up from his calculations. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. No one slept much anymore. I cracked the energy shield equations. The math works. We can build them. Really? Taewon felt hope for the first time in weeks. Really? But there's a catch. The power requirements are massive. We'd need a fusion reactor for each shield generator. We have 8 months left. We can maybe build 12 shield generators total. Enough for 12 ships or 12 defensive platforms. 12, Taewon repeated. The Vorath said the Krell send assessment vessels. How many ships? Usually one. A scout-class vessel, 3 kilometers long. Crew of approximately 300. Weapons sufficient to sterilize a planet. Taewon did the math in his head. 12 shields against 1 massive warship. The odds were terrible, but they were better than nothing. Across the facility, Hana worked with a team of xenobiologists. She had made a discovery that changed everything. The Vorath logs contained observations about hundreds of species across the galaxy. Hana had spent months reading those observations, looking for patterns. Most spacefaring species evolved from prey animals, she explained to the military council. Herbivores that learn to work together to survive predators. Or hive species where individuals don't matter, only the collective. These species developed technology slowly, carefully. They built civilizations based on cooperation and harmony. General Nam leaned forward. And humans. Humans are different. We evolved from persistence hunters. We chased prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We worked in packs, coordinating complex hunts. We developed language not for philosophy but to plan ambushes. Our entire evolutionary history is about killing things that are bigger and stronger than us. How does that help us fight the Krell? Hana pulled up tactical data from the Vorath archives. The Krell are also predators. Alpha predators. They're used to fighting prey species that swarm or flee. They've never fought another pack hunter. They don't understand pack tactics. Coordinated attacks, feints and ambushes. That's our advantage, General Nam studied the data. A smile crossed her face. You're saying we can outhunt the hunters. I'm saying we can try. On the far side of the moon, Kyungmi Bayek sat in the cockpit of humanity's first space fighter. It was small, barely 20 meters long, built from a combination of Earth technology and Vorath designs. The controls were unlike anything she had ever flown. But after 3 months of training, they felt natural. She was 27 years old and had been flying experimental aircraft for the Korean Air Force when the world changed. Now she commanded a squadron of 47 pilots, each one the best their nation had to offer. Alpha Squadron, this is command, came General Nam's voice over the radio. Begin training exercise Delta 7. Kyungmi activated her ship's engines. Around her, 46 other ships powered up. They launched from the hidden moon base and spread out in a formation that looked chaotic, but was actually precisely calculated. The exercise was simple. Take down a simulated Krell scout vessel using pack tactics. The simulation had been programmed based on Vorath combat logs. It was brutally difficult. They had failed 83 times in the past month. All pilots remember the plan, Kyungmi said. We're not trying to destroy it head-on. We're wolves bringing down an elk. Hit and fade. Draw its attention in multiple directions. Don't give it a chance to focus. The simulation began. The virtual Krell ship appeared, massive and terrible. Its weapons came online immediately, tracking the nearest fighter. Kyungmi's squadron split into 7 groups. Each group attacked from a different angle, firing railguns and missiles. The Krell ship's shields absorbed the hits easily, but its weapons could only track one target at a time. While it focused on Group 1, Groups 2 and 3 hit its flanks. The battle lasted 11 minutes. At the end, the simulated Krell ship was disabled, its engines destroyed, its weapons offline. Kyungmi had lost 14 pilots in the simulation, 14 deaths, but they had won. That's the first successful run, came the voice from command. Young Sik sounded excited. The tactics work. If we can do this for real, we have a chance. Back on Earth, Yuna Choi stood in front of a recruitment office. She had volunteered to pilot one of the defense fighters. Her application had been accepted. In 2 weeks, she would ship out to the moon for training. She knew the survival statistics. Less than 15% of pilots survived in the simulations. But she also knew that someone had to do it. Someone had to be willing to die so that humanity might live. Her phone rang. It was Jiho calling from Antarctica. "We found another ship," he said without preamble. Yuna felt her blood go cold. "Another Vorath ship?" "Yes, buried under the Antarctic ice. We detected the same electromagnetic signature. This one is called Silent Observer. It was shot down trying to help the Eternal Witness escape. Can you reach it? We're drilling now." "But Yuna, there's something else. This ship has a complete tactical database. Information on Krell weapons, ship classifications, and their rules of engagement. If we can access it, we might learn how to beat them without just throwing lives away." "How long to reach it?" 3 weeks. "Maybe 4, but we have a problem." "What problem?" "The drilling might trigger more automated signals. If the Krell monitoring station detects another Vorath ship powering up, they might send their scout vessel early. We could lose months of preparation time." Yuna closed her eyes. "Another impossible choice. Play it safe and fight blind, or take the risk and possibly face the Krell before humanity was ready." "What does General Nam say?" "She's leaving it to the science team. She says it's our call." Yuna thought about the Vorath captain who had died to protect humans she never met. She thought about Kyung-mi and her squadron training day and night. She thought about Young-sik building shields and weapons from alien blueprints. "Drill," she said. "We need that tactical data. Whatever it takes." 3 weeks later, Jiho's team broke through to the Silent Observer. The ship was larger than the Eternal Witness, built for long-range observation. Its crew had been dead just as long, frozen in their stations. Dr. Bora Sim, the Antarctic expedition leader, accessed the ship's computers. What she found there made her hands shake. The tactical database was complete. Every Krell ship class, every weapon type, every strategic doctrine, but more importantly, it contained their rules of engagement. The Krell followed protocols when assessing species. They sent a scout vessel first. If the species destroyed that vessel, the Krell classified them as hostile and sent a cleansing fleet to wipe them out. Hundreds of ships, thousands, complete annihilation. But if the species submitted, they became slaves. Client states forever under Krell control. "There's a third option," Bora said, reading through the files. "It's never happened before, but it's in their protocols. If a species shows strength but doesn't destroy the scout vessel, if they fight smart and prove themselves worthy, the Krell might classify them as equals. Potential allies instead of slaves or enemies." Taewon, listening from Switzerland, understood immediately. "We have to impress them. Show them we're not prey and we're not stupid. Show them we're worth talking to." "That's insane," someone said. "It's also the only plan that doesn't end with everyone dead," General Nam replied. "We fight the scout vessel. We disable it. Then we transmit a message offering mutual respect between equals." Hana pulled up the Vorath observations about humans. "The Vorath said we were remarkable. Different. Maybe the Krell will see it too." Young-sik's voice came through clearly. "The scout vessel just entered the solar system. It dropped out of FTL near Jupiter. We have 14 hours before it reaches Earth. The preparation time was over. The trial was beginning." The Krell scout vessel Dominant Authority moved through space like a predator stalking prey. 3 kilometers of weapons and armor built for one purpose: judgment. Its sensors swept across Earth's solar system, cataloging every satellite, every space station, every human presence beyond the planet. In the Lunar Command Center, Commander Jae-sung watched the enemy ship approach. He was 41 years old and had spent 20 years in the Korean Navy before being recruited for space defense. Now he commanded humanity's last line of defense from a base carved into the moon's far side. "Distance to Earth?" he asked. "Passing Mars orbit," replied Hyun Woo, the communications specialist. "Current speed suggests arrival in 12 hours. The Krell ship is broadcasting an assessment probe. It's a scanning wave that will catalog all our weapons and defenses." Jae-sung looked at the tactical display. 12 orbital platforms, each equipped with one of Young-sik's experimental shields. 47 fighters hidden in lunar craters. Railguns built into the moon's surface. It wasn't much, but it was everything humanity had. "General Nam, this is Lunar Command. Request permission to engage the assessment probe." General Nam's voice came through clearly from Earth. "Permission granted. Show them we're not going to be examined like insects under glass." Jae-sung nodded to his weapons officer. "Fire!" The lunar railgun spoke. Silent in the vacuum of space, but deadly. Tungsten rods accelerated to a fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the Krell probe in seconds. The probe shattered in a brilliant flash of light. First blood to humanity. The Krell ship stopped advancing. For 30 seconds it held position. Then its weapons charged and it changed course toward the moon. Here they come, Jae-sung said calmly. All fighters launch. Execute plan Wolfpack 7. On the moon's surface, Kyungmi Baek ran to her fighter. Around her, pilots scrambled to their ships. No time for fear. No time for doubt. Just training and instinct. She climbed into the cockpit and sealed the canopy. The fighter's systems came online, displays lighting up with targeting information. She could see the Krell ship on her screen, massive and terrifying. Alpha Squadron, this is Bayek. Form up on my position. Remember your training. We're the distraction. Make them focus on us. 47 fighters launched from hidden bays, spreading out in what looked like a random formation. But it wasn't random. Each pilot knew exactly where to be, exactly when to move. They had practiced this pattern 1,000 times. The Krell ship deployed automated drones, hundreds of them, each one a small killing machine. They swarmed toward the human fighters like angry insects. Young-Sik watched from Earth, monitoring the battle through satellite feeds. Deploying counter-drones now. Hidden satellites activated, releasing their own swarms. But these drones had been programmed with something special. Hacking code derived from Vorath tactical data. The counter-drones didn't attack the Krell drones. They infiltrated them. 60 seconds later, half the Krell drones turned on each other. Confused by compromised programming, they fired on their own swarm. It was chaos. Kyungmi pressed her advantage. All groups attack pattern Delta. Hit them from 7 directions at once. Her squadron split. 7 groups of 6 to 7 fighters each, attacking from different angles. The Krell ship's point defense systems activated, trying to track multiple targets simultaneously. But the system was designed to fight enemies that attacked in waves or swarms, not coordinated packs. Group 1 strafed the Krell ship's port side, railgun stitching lines of impact across its shields. The shields held, but the Krell ship turned to respond. As it did, Group 3 hit its starboard weapons arrays, then Group 5 attacked from above. Group 2 from below. The Krell ship spun, trying to bring its massive firepower to bear. But the human fighters were too fast, too coordinated. This is actually working, Hyunwoo said, disbelief in his voice, but the Krell adapted. The ship's main weapons locked onto Yuna Choi's fighter. She saw the targeting laser paint her hull a second before the shot came. Break, break, Kyungmi shouted. Yuna threw her fighter into a desperate roll, but the Krell weapon was too fast. The beam caught her wing, vaporizing half her ship. Red lights flooded her cockpit. I'm hit! Ejecting! Yuna's escape pod blasted clear seconds before her fighter exploded. She tumbled through space, watching the battle continue around her. 3 more fighters died in the next exchange. Pilots whose names Kyungmi knew, whose families would never see them again. But their sacrifice wasn't meaningless. While the Krell ship focused on them, Jae-sung's railgun platforms had been repositioning. All platforms fire on my mark, Jae-sung said. Target the main weapon array. 3, 2, 1, mark. 12 railguns fired simultaneously. 12 tungsten rods, each one carrying the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon, struck the Krell ship's primary weapons. The shields held for the first 3 impacts flickered on the 4th and collapsed on the 5th. The remaining 7 rods hit bare hull. Explosions bloomed across the Krell ship's forward section. Its main weapon went dark. Target damaged, the weapons officer reported. The Krell ship is wounded, but it wasn't done. Secondary weapons activated, tracking new targets. 2 orbital platforms exploded before they could raise their shields. 6 more fighters fell to point defense fire. Kyungmi checked her squadron status. 14 pilots down. 14 friends dead. Rage and grief warred in her chest, but she pushed both aside. She was the squadron leader. Her people needed her focused. All groups target the engines. If we can disable their propulsion, they can't run and they can't maneuver. Back in the Arctic, Jiho monitored the battle from the Eternal Witness. He had remained at the alien ship studying its systems. Now, watching the fight, he noticed something strange. Every time a human fighter made a particularly difficult maneuver, the Eternal Witness's systems showed activity. Brief bursts of processing power, targeting calculations, trajectory optimizations. The ship is helping us, he said aloud. The Vorath AI, it's still active. It's been enhancing our systems this whole time. He pulled up the data logs. For months, the Eternal Witness had been quietly infiltrating Earth's computer networks, not to control them, but to improve them. Every targeting computer, every flight system, Every tactical calculation had been subtly optimized using 12,000-year-old Vorath algorithms. The dead crew was still protecting humanity. In space, Kyungmi led a final assault on the Krell ship's engines. Her remaining fighters dove in perfect formation, a pack of wolves going for the kill. Railguns and missiles struck engine after engine. The Krell ship's propulsion systems exploded in sequence. The massive vessel went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, but its main power was dead. It hung in space, disabled but not destroyed. "Hold fire," General Nam ordered. "All fighters maintain defensive positions but do not destroy that ship." On Earth, Taiwan and Donghyun transmitted the message they had spent months preparing. It went out in both Krell and Vorath languages, broadcast on every frequency. "We are humanity. We found your victims. We learned their story. We understand your laws. We reject both extermination and subjugation. We offer a third option, mutual respect between equals. We have disabled your ship but not destroyed it. We have shown strength but not cruelty. We now await your response." 17 minutes of silence followed. In those 17 minutes, every human on Earth and in space held their breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on how the Krell responded. Finally, the Krell ship transmitted back. Hyunwoo translated the message. "Species classification. Error. No protocol exists for this scenario. Transmitting full combat data to Hegemony Command. Recommendation: quarantine pending High Council review. The Krell ship's emergency systems activated. Using reserve power, it opened a jump point, a tear in space itself. The massive vessel limped through and vanished. For 5 seconds, no one spoke. Then the Lunar Command Center erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had survived. But Jae-sung didn't cheer. He looked at the casualty reports. 23 pilots dead. 2 orbital platforms destroyed. Hundreds of support personnel injured. They had won the battle. But the war was just beginning. 8 days after the discovery, the Arctic Research Station had transformed into a military compound. Helicopters came and went constantly, bringing scientists, linguists, military advisors, and UN officials. The small team that had found the ship now worked alongside 50 of the world's best minds. Dr. Donghyun Kang arrived on the 3rd day. He was an older man, gray-haired and patient, who had spent his life studying dead languages. Now he faced a language from a dead civilization, and it thrilled him. He set up his equipment in the ship's bridge, surrounded by holographic displays that showed alien text. Hana worked beside him, pointing out recurring symbols and patterns. The ship seemed to understand they were trying to communicate. It kept showing them the same sequences over and over like a teacher with students. "It's mathematical," Donghyun said on the 5th day. "The base structure is mathematical. Once you understand that, the rest falls into place." By the 7th day, they had cracked the basics. The aliens called themselves the Vorath. This ship was named Eternal Witness, and what it had witnessed made everyone in the room go pale. Taiwan stood in the communications center listening as Donghyun translated the ship's logs. Around him, military officials and scientists listened in silence. "The Vorath were explorers," Donghyun explained, his voice coming through the speakers. "They traveled the galaxy studying primitive civilizations. They watched species grow and develop. They took notes but never interfered. Pure scientific observation. What happened to them?" asked Minho Seo, the UN Security Council representative, who had arrived by emergency helicopter 2 days ago. "They were murdered," Hana answered. Her voice was hard. "Murdered for doing their job." The holographic displays showed new images. Another species. These aliens looked different from the Vorath. Brutal, angular. Their ships were weapons designed for nothing but destruction. "The Krell hegemony," Donghyun continued. "That's what the Vorath called them. They control most of the galaxy. And they have one absolute law. No one is allowed to study or contact species that haven't developed faster than light travel yet." "Why?" Minho asked. "Control," Taewon said. He had been studying the data for days. "Think about it. If primitive species learn about the galaxy before they're ready, they might develop too fast. They might become threats. The Krell eliminate that possibility by eliminating anyone who might teach them. And the punishment for breaking this law? Minho already knew the answer. He just needed to hear it said out loud. "Total extinction," Hana whispered. "The Krell don't arrest lawbreakers. They destroy entire civilizations. Every planet, every colony, every ship. Complete erasure from existence." The room went silent. Dong Hyun continued translating. The Vorath ship was studying early human civilization 12,000 years ago. They were watching our ancestors build the first cities, develop agriculture, create art. They found us fascinating. Humans were unusual, they said. Most species that develop intelligence are prey animals, herd creatures or hive minds. But humans descended from predators, pack hunters. The Vorath had never seen that before in a technological species. The Krell found them, Jiho said quietly. He had been studying the ship's damage patterns. The attack came without warning. 3 Krell warships against 1 Vorath research vessel. The displays showed the battle. It was short and brutal. The Vorath ship fought back, but research vessels weren't designed for combat. Their shields failed. Their weapons did minimal damage. Within minutes, the Eternal Witness was crippled and dying. The captain made a choice, Hana said. She could have run. Maybe jumped to FTL and led the Krell away from Earth. But that would have told the Krell that something important was here. Instead, she crashed the ship in the Arctic and activated a stasis field. The ice formed around them naturally over thousands of years, hiding them. They died to protect us, Yuna said. They didn't even know us. We were just animals they were studying, and they died to keep us hidden. Minho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, snow fell steadily. What else did they leave us? Dong Hyun took a deep breath. A warning. The captain's final log entry. She recorded it as she died. The holographic display changed. It showed a Vorath woman, her translucent skin turning blue from cold and oxygen loss. She sat in the captain's chair dying, but her eyes were clear and focused. She spoke in her own language, but Dong Hyun translated. To whoever finds this ship, if you are human, then you have developed enough to understand this message. You are in terrible danger. The Krell seed the galaxy with automated monitoring stations. We destroyed the one near your planet, but others will take its place eventually. When your species develops faster than light travel, these stations will detect it. They will send out a signal. The Krell will come to assess you. Most species fail this assessment. They are erased. You must prepare. You must be ready. Do not let our sacrifice be meaningless. Survive. The image faded. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Minho broke the silence. How long do we have? Jiho pulled up the ship's sensor data. The stasis field kept the ship powered down for 12,000 years. But when we opened the door, we activated its systems. The ship sent out an automated distress signal. Standard Vorath protocol, and Minho pressed. And the Krell monitoring station detected it 3 hours later. The station is in orbit around Neptune. We didn't even know it was there. Taewon felt his stomach drop. What did it do? It sent a message, Jiho said quietly. Faster than light communication. Instant transmission across the galaxy. The message reached Krell space approximately 18 hours ago. Which means a Krell ship is already on its way. Based on the Vorath data about Krell travel speeds, we have approximately 18 months before they arrive. The room erupted. People shouted questions, argued, some even cried. Minho held up his hands for silence. We need to convene the UN Security Council immediately. Every nation needs to know about this. We need to prepare. Prepare for what? Someone asked. We can't fight them. We don't have FTL. We don't have energy shields. We barely have space stations. We have 18 months, Yuna said. Her voice cut through the panic like a knife. 18 months to study this ship. To learn everything the Vorath knew. To build weapons. You want to fight them? Minho stared at her. You heard the logs. They wipe out entire civilizations. I heard that they've never faced humans before, Yuna replied. The Vorath said we're different, predators, pack hunters. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. But I'd rather die fighting than wait for extinction. Taewon looked at the frozen bodies of the Vorath crew. They had died 12,000 years ago to give humanity this chance. To give them warning. To give them time. She's right, he said. We prepare. We learn, we fight. It's what humans do. Hana pulled up new data from the ship's computers. There's more. Technical specifications. Weapon designs. Shield frequencies. The Vorath documented everything about the Krell. They left us a manual on how to fight them. Minho pulled out his satellite phone. I'm calling the Secretary General. This goes global today. No more secrets. As he walked away to make the call, Taewon returned to the bridge. He sat in the captain's chair, the same chair where the Vorath captain had died. Outside the ship, 300 meters above, the world continued as normal. People went to work, raised children, lived their lives. None of them knew that humanity had just been given a death sentence. And none of them knew that a small group of scientists in the Arctic had just decided to fight back. The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland of Greenland, carrying ice crystals that stung like tiny needles. Dr. Tae-Won Kim pulled his thermal hood tighter around his face and stared at the computer screen inside the research tent. The numbers made no sense. 300 meters below the ice, something was generating an electromagnetic field that shouldn't exist. Tae-Won had been studying glaciers for 20 years. He knew ice. He knew rock. He knew the difference between natural formations and human equipment buried in the frost. This was neither. "Hana, come look at this," he called out. Dr. Hana Park trudged over from the drilling station, her breath forming white clouds in the frigid air. She was younger than Tae-Won, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. When she saw the readings, her expression changed from tired to alert in an instant. "That's impossible," she whispered. "The magnetic signature is off the charts, and look at this." She pointed to a secondary display. The metal composition. It's not steel, not titanium, not anything in our database. Ji-Ho Lee, their equipment specialist, joined them. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. "The thermal scan shows a cavity down there. A big one. Whatever this thing is, it's hollow." Tae-Won made a decision. "We drill, now." Captain Yuna Choi, their security officer, shook her head. "In this weather? The storm is getting worse. If we wait, the ice shelf could shift. We might lose this location forever." Tae-Won pulled up the geological maps. "We have a 6-hour window, maybe less." Yuna studied the maps, then nodded. "Your call, Doctor, but I'm staying with the team the whole time." The drilling took 4 hours. The thermal lance cut through ancient ice that had been frozen since the end of the last ice age. 12,000 years of accumulated snow and frost, layer after layer, holding secrets from a time when humans were just learning to farm and build cities. When they broke through into the cavity, warm air rushed up through the drill hole. Not hot, but warm. Exactly minus 39.7 degrees Celsius. Ji-Ho checked the reading 3 times. "That's weird," he said. "The air temperature down there should match the ice, but it's warmer, and it's constant, like something is heating it." They lowered a camera down the hole. The first images that came back made everyone in the tent go silent. The object was massive, 400 meters long, shaped like a teardrop, made of dark metal and crystal. Its surface seemed to shift between solid and liquid, between metal and glass. Patterns covered the hull, geometric shapes that hurt to look at too long. The ship, because there was no other word for it, sat in a perfect cavity carved out of the ice. "We need to get down there," Hana said. Her voice shook with excitement and fear. They widened the drill hole and lowered a rope ladder. Tae-Won went first, then Hana, then Ji-Ho. Yuna came last, her hand on the emergency flare gun at her belt. The cavity was huge, like standing inside a cathedral made of ice. Blue light filtered through the frozen walls, giving everything an otherworldly glow. And in the center, impossible and real, sat the ship. Tae-Won approached slowly. His thermal suit kept him warm, but he felt cold anyway, cold from awe, from fear, from the weight of what this meant. He reached out and touched the hull. The ship responded. Light rippled across the surface, flowing away from his hand like water. Patterns lit up in colors that had no names, colors his eyes struggled to process, and then, with a sound like breathing, a doorway appeared. The metal simply folded away, creating an opening large enough for a person to walk through. "I think it wants us to go inside," Ji-Ho said. Yuna stepped forward. "I go first." "That's not negotiable." They entered the ship together. The moment they crossed the threshold, lights activated throughout the interior. Not harsh fluorescent lights, but a soft glow that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The walls were smooth, organic, covered in the same shifting patterns as the exterior. The corridor led them forward. They had no choice, really. There was only one way to go. After 50 meters, the corridor opened into a large chamber. The bridge. It had to be the bridge. 3 seats faced a massive view screen, and in those seats sat 3 bodies. They were not human. That much was obvious. Taller than humans, with elongated limbs and heads that swept back in graceful curves. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, and their hands had 6 fingers each. They wore uniforms of some kind, made from material that looked like metal but moved like cloth. They had been dead for 12,000 years, but they looked like they had died yesterday. Perfectly preserved, perfectly frozen. Hana moved closer to one of the bodies. There's no decay, no decomposition at all. It's like they died moments ago and were flash frozen. Look at this, Taewon said. He stood near the main console. Holographic displays flickered to life above the control panels, showing images and text in a language no human had ever seen. The images cycled through different scenes. Stars. Planets. What looked like maps of space, and then suddenly the images changed to something they could understand. Earth. But not modern Earth. Ancient Earth, covered in ice and snow. The last ice age. They were here, Hana breathed. 12,000 years ago, they were here studying us. The holographic display continued. More images appeared, other ships like this one, battles in space, explosions, debris, and then a final image, a warning symbol. Even without understanding the language, the meaning was clear. Danger Jiho pointed to another display. The ship is still powered, its systems are waking up. Whatever happened here, the ship recorded everything. Yuna activated her radio. Base, this is Choi. You need to get the UN on the line. Now, we have a situation that is way above our authority level. Taewon stared at the alien bodies, at the warning symbol flashing on the display, at the impossible ship that had waited 12,000 years to be found. Whatever these beings had been, whatever had killed them, they had come to Earth for a reason. They had hidden here for a reason, and now, by finding them, humanity might have just announced its presence to whatever was out there in the dark. The holographic display continued to cycle through its warning message. Hana worked frantically to record everything, her camera capturing the alien text. Donghyun Kang, their remote linguist, would need every scrap of data to translate this. Above them, 300 meters of ice separated them from the surface. But in that moment, the real distance that mattered was the one between Earth and the stars. The aliens had crossed that distance once. Taewon had a terrible feeling that something else would cross it again, and soon. The ship's awakening had sent out some kind of signal. He could feel it in his bones. They had opened a door that had been closed for 12 millennia. And something on the other side had just noticed.